The king of Lochlin was a great patron of the arts, a mighty warrior, expanding his territories. And he had many pastimes and many interests. He loved to raid and trade and increase his holdings. But one of his favourite activities was tormenting his greatest rival, the great Queen of Erin. He would harry her coastline, even though he had no chance of conquering it completely. He would make off with her cattle and her people, even though he didn't need her cattle or her people. Queen of Erin wasn't as expansionist as the King of Lochlin. She looked after the islands that were hers. The areas that belonged to her she defended fiercely. But the King of Lochlin was always looking for next level petty ways to get to her. Now in the wild wood, between the lands held by the Queen of Erin and the lands held by the King of Lochlin, there was a borderland area held by the devil himself, a kind of buffer zone. And in that buffer zone, of course, dwelt people, and there was a poet in those woods. One half of her family came from Lochlin, her father's side, but as is common for families in that area, one half came from Erin, her mother's side, and the poet had declared for the Queen of Erin, though she had no quarrel with her father's people, and had chosen to become the poet of the great Queen of Erin. Even though the poet had potential but wasn't particularly great, and even though he had skalds in their hundreds and tens of hundreds, the King of Lochlin decided to torment or annoy the Queen of Erin by taking that poet from her. So he went to the devil himself and said, "I think I have a better claim on the poet than the Queen." And the Queen said, "She has never shown any interest in being your poet. And you have never shown any interest in being her patron until she took an oath of service to me. I see your game." But the King of Lochlin said, "I have all the oaths of all her family men, whereas you just have the whispered longings of her forgotten Irish foremothers." The Queen of Erin said, "But I have her sovereignty, I have her will, I have her heart, and that should be sufficient." The devil said, "Both of you have an equal claim, and the king has never had the chance to offer his patronage, so let him try 3 times, and if he can woo her away, then let the matter rest there." And the King of Lochlin turned to his rival and smirked and said, "It is my most fervent wish to hear Skaldic poetry from the lips of the Queen's filler." So he set about trying to convince the poet to abandon her oaths to the Queen. First, he determined which areas of poetic craft she struggled with, and came to her in disguise as a teacher, as a great skald of her father's people, saying, "Be my student, and I will help you with all the areas you struggle with." For he knew that knowledge was a way to her heart. But sensing a trap, the poet said, "I appreciate the offer, but the great Queen will provide all the tutelage I need." On the second occasion, he came to her as himself, as the great king, with offers of riches and renown. "But abandon your oath to the Queen and come with me, and I will make you the greatest skald of your generation. You will want for nothing, and because your heart is lonely, and I see that, I have selected a fine man for you, just your type, and he bears my sigil most valiantly. So, my dear, will you?" But the poet said, "I appreciate the offer, but I am oathed to somebody else. Let me settle with my Tua." So the great king flew into a terrible rage, struck the poet on her shoulder, and put her to flight. He mustered his hunting hounds and drove her through the countryside. She tried to seek aid at the hall of person of her own, Tua, but was met with a closed door. So pursued, she ran to the edge of the cliff, And turning to face him, he said, "If you will not be my skald, then you will be my thrall. Come with me, you are injured, you are spent, and there is nothing here but peril and death. I hold the oaths of your family men, and you have nowhere left to turn."